So just quickly, then last question on BBS and behavior, because I think I really want to go into your SIF stuff. Do you see a world where the behavioral sciences and behavioral BBS and UView can not just coexist, but somehow maybe complement each other?
Yes and no. I mean, it's an interesting question, really. I go back to the culture of safety stuff that we were talking about earlier. So during the 90s, when I was doing my PhD, I was introduced to Bandura's work of reciprocal determinism, which came from social learning theory. This is how we all learn. This is the way it works. And there's three components. There's a psychological component, a behavioral component, and the situational component. So if you think about the link, and I've researched the links, and 80% of safety performance, or performance per se, I guess, comes from the behavior situation link. So the behavioral side is great. The new view side, so just one contrast is when we talk about behavioral safety, I've always said no more than 20 behaviors on a checklist. You can't manage more than that. You can't do observations in the time that you got allotted more than that. So behavioral safety looks at what goes right in terms of what people are doing safely, and it looks at what people are doing wrong, unsafe behavior. You use the numbers of each to calculate a percent safe score. So you're monitoring variability in performance on a daily basis or weekly or however frequently that is assessed. So with the new view guys, you've got this 99.9%. You've got to focus on what goes right, but there's no limits, there's no constraints. Which company has got the wherewithal to go and employ loads of people to go around monitoring what's being done right to extract all these lessons from? And the practical answer is hardly anybody. They're going to focus on what goes wrong because that's efficiency. Okay, yep. What's going wrong? Right, let's do this. Let's get it back in. We put constraints in, whatever that is, those controls are, to keep everything on a pretty even track. You see it in quality management and so on and so forth, statistical process control and all those kind of things that go in.
All right. So actually, I did want to ask you about this. So this book you're working on, it's probably not too dissimilar to meta-analyses that have looked to pooled effect sizes for the effects of safety interventions on like injuries, incidents, things like that. How do you respond to some of the research, and this isn't just from Hallowell and the CSRA, that highlight the poor statistical confidence underpinning common uses of injury measures?
Yeah. See, we're on the same track as we were with the risk assessments. So question one, what was the point of doing and calculating TRIR, LTIF, et al, and so on and so forth? What was the point? The lag and indicate. Well, it was Congress. Congress wanted those numbers. Congress wanted to know which businesses or which industries were safe and unsafe and so on and so forth. So their use and they come into being was from OSHA and the government. And it just got it here. The subsequent records help to provide national statistics that Congress, OSHA, and policymakers use to make decisions about safety legislation and programs. The data is used to determine establishment-specific injury rates and target enforcement compliance. So it's a legal mechanism, okay? We go to Hallowell's work, which was interesting, mostly because for how wrong it was and what bad science it was. They're using parametric tests on non-parametric data. Parametric data meaning it's random data in the big scheme of things. You're trying to get, this was the funny bit, really. I mean, there's no reliability of the data reported in the paper at all. No reliability automatically equals no validity. The whole title of the paper is there's no validity. Well, if you haven't got reliability, you haven't got validity anyway. So that was kind of like, okay, that's weird. And then, of course, you're trying to, the TRIR, the LTIFs are an amalgam of lots of different incidents. Can be recordables, serious injuries, minor injuries, SIFs, and so on. But the predominant number of injuries are the little stuff, the scratches, the first aids, and so on. So now you're amalgamating all of this data, and then you're asking it to be able to predict how many SIFs it's got in there from this vast sea. It's like trying to find the Higgs boson. Really, yeah. It really is. And then suddenly this paper's taken off all across the world. I saw it years ago and ignored it. I read it, junk science, just pushed it away. And then all of a sudden it's taken on a life of its own. People want to kill TRIR. You see it all over LinkedIn. Everyone wants to do this. And I'm like, Why? It's not intended to be predictive. None of these things are. But funnily enough, MSHA, which is the Mining Safety and Health Authority in America, with 29,000 data sets, was able to predict SIFs from minor injuries. So, hey, we got contrary data using the same metrics and so on and so forth. But Hallowell, now what Hallowell did is an academic. He didn't push his work through academia for peer review. He bypassed all of that and put it out as an industry thing. And I'd spoken to him and I've emailed him as a reviewer. If I was a reviewer, I'd looked at it and I've said, hey, Matthew, hey, buddy, we got some problems here. And I was very nice. He said I was too forthright. Well, I'm Brit and I'm a scaffolder. So there you go. But it's like, this is all wrong. Why can't you retract it? No. There's no point retracting it. Why not? That's what good scientists do. And the unit they belong to is all about good science. And I understand he works with Helen Lingard down in Australia with you guys. And I've known Helen since my PhD days. Yeah? So it's all a very incestuous group of safety guys worldwide, really, if you think about it. So I don't have a problem with these metrics. When we talk about leading and lagging, well, in 1999, 98, 99, maybe 2000, the HSE, British HSE, put out a document measuring safety performance. And they said, you got lagging indicators, you got leading indicators.
Yeah, 5-4, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever. Use leading indicators as well as lagging. Okay. And then National Safety Council in America come out with some, they work with BSC guys and put together this document and doing the same thing. Well, use a basket of indicators. You never rely on one. Yeah, I mean, it's just.
Well, so what they argued though was there's just too few injuries to actually make sense of it. So even if you use a plus on or a negative binomial distribution, there's still so few incidents that we can really draw almost nothing from it, short of hundreds of millions or billions of hours. And anyone can do this by putting into a Poisson distribution and looking at the probabilities. So that's what one of the core findings was unless you have a gigantic data set, which at the national level they do, but as an organization month to month.
Okay, so I know of an organization who's had in excess of 70 fatalities a year. Okay, so when you think of the opportunities and the probabilities associated with those for lesser injuries, if you take Heinrich's triangle, if anything like that works.
Yep.
I mean, Emmanuel did it. I think Bird and Loftus did it.
I don't think we have time for that argument.
I know. They're just there, okay? But if you tell me there's not enough data and I've got 70 deaths, excuse me, that's more than enough data.
No, statistically, though, they're arguing not just the insights from those, but...
To get statistical validity, you only need 30 data points at best, minimum, okay? You can run t-tests on 30 sets of data.
But if you look at the denominator, we're talking hundreds of thousands of worker hours, the exposure. You wouldn't need 30. You would need astronomical data for this.
I talked about data points. Data points. So the Hallowell.
You mean insights, things that you can learn from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Hallowell told us trillions upon trillions of man hours that have gone into this.
That's actually accurate, though. You can do.
Hang on. Let's just look at that. That may be. But ultimately, at the end of the day, there was 15 data sets, of which were over 10 years, which gave us 1,800 data points. That's it. The millions and the trillions of hours and all immaterial. We've got 1,800 data points. That's it. We can use those.
The injuries, you mean? Yep. Or fatalities or injuries. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the monthly data.
Yeah.
It was just monthly data. They were, I don't know, calculations and standardized, I guess.
Yep.
But it was 1,800 data points. It wasn't. The millions and trillions of man hours makes no difference to the data you're going to analyze. It might, in terms of face validity, how useful the data is, but even with that, with all of those data sets, they never calculated the reliability of it. Now, when I wrote, and I talk about this because when I wrote the cultural web paper and I had linked the results from the assessment to a basket full of indicators of safety statistics, okay?
Yep.
And a reviewer said, you have not got validity because you have not calculated the reliability of your accident statistics. You need to do that before this paper can go anywhere near publication. Okay, so now we're in the space of how do we know what we don't know? How do we calculate something We don't know. So use Spearman's Row, non-parametric. You can put these things together. You can construct and deconstruct them to come up with a reliability of the data. We did it. We put it in. How we did it is in the paper. What we did is in the paper. And I gave that information to Matthew as well and said, hey, here's a way of doing it. We've done it. You might find it useful. Didn't want to know. But I was now able to say and put in the book, here's a valid safety culture or culture of safety assessment tool that works. And it's linked to this basket of indicators. So I don't get hung up on a lot of the nitty gritty and the ins and outs of stuff. Yeah. Because it's about saving people from dying. It's about preventing harm. If I don't have to worry about the statistical unth of unth, but I can save the guy's life, which is more valid. Yeah. So that's what I said. Sociologists are very good at critiquing and picking the bones out of everything and trying to destroy. And that's what they're doing. They are trying to destroy to build a platform to sell a service on, which it would be NewView. And that's wrong. It's ethically wrong. It's morally wrong. What are you doing positively to prevent harm? That's what we all want to know. What are you doing? There was a Woolworth experiment, I understand, that kicked all of this off, and I've been able to ascertain, where's the results? What have we got? And no one's been able to tell me that it made a difference or it not. All I get told is it didn't make things worse. Well, whoopie-doo. Who cares? What did you do to prevent harm? Seriously. So all you guys that are Griffiths that are putting out the critiques about what doesn't work, how about you switch that round and put in place what does work? Then you might find you actually get traction and you won't get challenged so much.
Would you accept that research, so if it wasn't coupled to injury measures, which we can't statistically trust?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see, did you have an impact on injury reduction? Did you reduce the number of people who got hurt?
But we can't trust the injury reduction. We can't trust that data statistically.
Why can't you?
Because you need a gigantic data set. You look at the denominator and the numerator.
So a guy goes to work, right? Okay, so last year, this company killed in excess of 70 people.
With hundreds of millions of worker hours, which 70 is too much, sure. One's too many. But statistically, you can't differentiate noise from, you know how to do statistical significance tests.
Hang on. They've killed 70 people, okay? That's an outlier.
What's the difference between 68 and 70 year to year?
Give me a minute to go down this little rabbit hole. Any company that kills 70 people a year is an outlier, okay? It's a problem. So I don't care about the statistics. I'm like, how do I prevent 70 people dying next year? What do I do? So we put in mechanisms, which happen to be leadership. We put in the mechanisms that we know worked. Guess what? For the first year in that company's history, the following year, no fatalities. And the year after. And the year after. Do I need statistical validity of these measures? Or do I just need to know there's been no deaths?
You kind of do need statistical confidence, though, like to know that that's not just... Like, you look at injury measures, fatalities, they go up and down every year. There's always ebbs and flows. But to know that that's actually a stable change, like I agree with you, 70, any deaths is too many, but to have some level of rigor around whether there is a statistical difference.
Okay, put it in, it's for SIF work now. Let's switch to SIFs, okay, specifically. So here in Indiana, I was asked to look at when SIFs came out 2013-14. I was asked to help a company get a handle on SIFs. What does it mean? How do we make it work? And let's have a look at the state of Indiana, the construction contractors. So real people doing real things with millions and trillions of man hours, okay, all across, right across the state, okay? And then we said, okay, we got the data. We could download the data from the authorities' websites, okay? So we took the data, fatality data, and we put it in to statistical process control. We took the data from the recordable, and we put that in there, and then the next layer down, and we put that in there. So we were able to show that on the lesser injuries, we've got downward trends over a 20-year period. It was going down, but it hadn't breached through the third confidence limit. It was close, but it wasn't through yet. We hadn't statistically made that breakthrough that everyone's looking for. Okay? When we looked at the variation in the fatalities, which was appalling, I just look at them and I'm crying inside when I see these stats. And we see that we'd gone up, we'd gone down, we'd nearly breached the upper third limit for fatalities 1 year. I'm like, bloody hell. And then woof, down again. So you've got this thing. But when you look at the data over a 20-year period, fatalities, no, they have not statistically done anything with fatalities, and every 1 year that's less is brilliant. So what does that tell us? From statistical process control, we know there is something in the construction environment that is causing those fatalities. It's not company wide, it's industry wide in a state. If you do it nationally, you've got it again. So what is it about the construction industry in particular that leads to these numbers of deaths that seemingly won't go away? You've got contracting. That's one issue. Okay, purchasing and supply and how they rig their contracts. Everybody wants the guy who's just going to throw up a ladder and run up on the roof without putting his scaffolding up there and do it in half a day because he's going to be really cheap. Oh dear, we've killed him. Oh, what a shame. Let's get the next fella in. But it's an industry thing. You've got to tackle the industry. The industry has to do it itself. So in that sense, collate all the data from an industry if you really want to get all these statistical unts. I'm not worried about it. I just want to know that someone's going home. And there's a reason for it. So I know Australia, for example, you've put up your fatalities this year compared to previous years. Every fatality you get means that the family of the person who died economically is now going to suffer for roughly 15 years. There's roughly going to be a 15% decline in their economic well-being. In some countries around the globe, that means that's another generation of kids put into poverty or staying in poverty. There's more than just preventing harm. There's the bigger social impact where the sociologists should be looking, okay? Look at the big picture and relate these things to that. But they don't. For some strange reason, they don't. Yeah? Now, I was taught as a psychologist psychometrics. I know psychometrics. I know the different models from statistics and so on. But at the end of the day, are they going to help you save a life or not? If you really want to get practical, statistical process control does it. And all it is you work out the mean and you've got plus or minus 3 standard deviation units. And when you track your data over time, if you go down through the bottom layer, hey, brilliant. Statistically, you've done it. You've got some robust traction going on, whether it's for a company or an industry or a country.
So what Dom's talking about is better known as control charts. Shameless plug. I've covered control charts on my site if you're interested. I highly recommend you check them out. I agree with Dom. I plug control charts and statistical process control every chance I get. Hey, Dom, we're out of time. That was awesome. I feel like we need to catch up again after you publish your book. Is there any other question you want, or any other point you want to throw out there?
Okay. SIFs is very important. We have a website, okay? It's called PEER, as in peer, colleague, Popper, Echo, Romeo, dash, leader, Lima, Echo, Alpha, Delta, Echo, Romeo, Sierra.com. Okay. And on there, and there's a free resources. And in the free resources, there are, I think, 5 or 6 publications or presentations on SIF reduction and how to do it. The first one, which is a practical guide, is the results of all of the research that we did in Indiana with the construction guys, the one we've just been talking about. You will see the charts, the charts in there, and you can see the data. And then it goes down through some of the things you've got to think about putting a SIF program in place, whether how you define SIFs, because that's really important, that you've got this general agreement on how they're defined. They can be defined proactively or reactively. Both are valid. Doesn't matter so long as you're focusing on SIFs and SIF prevention. Okay. And then it goes through and we're presenting data. I've done it with a lot of folks who've done SIF work, never really tied it to the culture of safety stuff, the attributes that's underneath, that underlies all of these things. So it's like, hey, why aren't we doing it? So I think we did the data and we were doing it traditionally, and we had 400 rabbits to chase down whole. And I'm like, why are we doing this? How do we distill this down into something you can use? And the next thing you know, we had 6 things. to go chase. And the company concerned, I told them, and they just said, you have just saved us tens of millions of dollars. So it's very practical, it's very straightforward, and that's where anybody can just go and take it. There's no restrictions, no putting in email addresses and all that kind of nonsense. It's just there for people to use.
So let's wait till you publish your book, but I'd love to go into the deep dive, the SIF stuff, just focus on SIF, tap into your insights.
Yeah,
so,
okay. Well,
thanks
the
again.
book is going to be a revelation, to say the least.